I'm going to start off today's shir with a question that's I'm stuck with. I don't really have a good answer to the question, and I'm going to say over a Gemara, a Mechilta, and then we're going to go to what we're speaking about, and maybe we'll get back to there. But the question is a fascinating question. The beginning of the parsha, Yisro comes to Moshe, and if Moshe goes out, so then everybody else goes out, and Moshe Rabbeinu becomes the waiter, and he serves his guest. Now, the Gemara says the following story. If not mistaken, it was Rebbe Gamliel. He had guests, Talmidei Chachamim came to him, and he served them. And in the middle of this being served, the Talmidei Chachamim said, "1 second, this isn't right. He's a bigger Talmid Chacham than us. We can't let him serve us." Imagine you went to Reb Chaim Kanevsky's house, and he decides he's going to give you a cup of tea. Would you allow him to do that?
You don't want him to do it, but is also Hachnos Zorchim. So maybe he wants to fulfill the mitzvah.
I want to tell you something, Yisro. First of all, you look good.
Baruch
You
Hashem.
look good. Look, does that mean that you're at home?
Baruch Hashem, I came home yesterday. Yes.
Okay. Is it nice to be at home?
Oh boy. I slept and I ate, which I wasn't able to do in the hospital.
Okay. All right. I'm happy to hear that you're human. Your human functions have come back. All right. Baruch Rav Echaylim, we made a mishaberach for you.
Amen.
You should feel better.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
I want to tell you something. I was a bacher in yeshiva, and I don't know if you know, before there was a thing called snail mail, which means email, because it's not a WhatsApp. But there used to be this thing that you put a stamp on in the corner, and you write an address, and a fellow would go around and deliver it. You have to ask like your grandfather, like what that is exactly. But anyways, so people wanted to get their stuff done early, mail to happen quicker. So it was one of the Rosh Yeshivas was going to New York. So a bacher asked him if he could take the letter and mail it in New York for him. So the Rosh Yeshiva took the letter and he mailed it in New York. And then that next Shalashudis, the Rosh Yeshiva gave a fire and brimstone Mussar Shmuz that how could you ask the Rosh Yeshiva to be a postman?
Wow.
Rosh Yeshiva is your Rosh Yeshiva.
Right.
And that's not what you're supposed to ask him to do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you agree?
I agree. Yes.
What about Chesed?
You know why? It's a tremendous tircha for him.
What about Chesed?
If the Rosh Yeshiva would have said, "I'm going to New York, would anyone like me to take a letter for them?" Would that have been okay?
So we're going to discuss that in a minute. So he gave this Mussar Shmuz, and I was a young bacher at the time. I was probably like 16 or 17, and I went over to him after the shmuz, and I asked him this question: "What about Chesed?" And if it wasn't bad enough to get it the first time, when he gave it in public, I got it in private too. But just for your parents, for your personal information, this wasn't Rabbi Schneidman, it was Rabbi Bresler who gave this Mussar Shmuz. It was a very pleasant, unassuming, humble person. Right, parents, would you say that that's a good example of the discussion of him? What?
Sounds more his style, yeah.
But he gave it to me over the head. Okay, and it's a B'zayir HaTorah. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. A fascinating Gemara. The Gemara says that Talmidei Chachamim, but before you know them, they look to you like gold. When you get to know them, they look to you like copper, and then when you know them really good, they look to you like cheres. That's what the Gemara in Sanhedrin says. And the Ben Ish Chai, explaining that Gemara, he says that when you know them from far away, you think that they're super great. And when you know them up close, you see them more as human beings, they lose their luster in your eyes until you're actually mavaz of them. Though that it's not true, that they're not like that, but when you, the familiarity, that breeds a lack of proper respect. Proper respect. All right. Anyways, so
That's why I read the book during COVID. I read the book, My Uncle the Nitziv.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's
That's
tremendous.
a nice.
That's a great book because he talks exactly about that. Exactly how he would, because that was his uncle. So you know he knew what he was talking to. The Nitziv was not just anybody, and the Nitziv made him feel comfortable, but he never really felt that comfortable because of the fact that he was in the Chiv. I got to give him the respect that he needs.
That's correct. I just want to share with you. This wasn't like this. We're going a little bit off topic, but something that actually happened with a member of our shul, and I'll tell you two stories. But this is really a very important thing because we live in a generation that there's no such thing as respect. So if I can just move that back a drop, then we've accomplished something. I told one of the people of the shul, I was driving together with the husband and wife, and I mentioned that Moshe Feinstein in a tshuva in Shemus of Gittin, he says, he just proves that Bathsheba, the wife of David, called David Adoni HaMelech. She didn't call him by his first name. Your husband and wife, they should get along, right?
Right.
So this lady that was in the car was horrified at the thought. And she said, what do you mean? Like when there's nobody around, she still called him David HaMelech? So I asked her, I said, tell me, when there was nobody around, did you expect him to act like David HaMelech or to act like just a regular good old Davy? What do you expect him to act like? So what do you mean? Yes, David HaMelech said if he has to act like David HaMelech, then you have to interact with a David HaMelech. You have to call him David HaMelech. That's a fascinating thing. And I'll just add to that. My wife told me once, I only heard part of the story. I was sitting by Moshe Halberstam, and my wife called. She had to speak to me. And she asked, could I speak to Avram Baruch? And Moshe Halberstam said he's Harav, and you can call him that too. And no, he wasn't joking. He wasn't joking. He meant it seriously. This is not a maybe he made a bad calculation about me, but in the Shita, that he was saying something very serious. A person has a certain amount of demands a certain amount of respect. You don't have a right to play it down.
Right.
Okay. So Narashiva said you don't have. Okay. So now I'm asking you. You go to Reb Chaim's house, and Reb Chaim says, "Could I get you a coffee?"
That means you gotta pick yourself up and you gotta get it yourself.
All right. Or you say, you know what, I would tell you a secret. If Reb Chaim brought me a coffee, I wouldn't drink it in front of him.
No, why? That would be bizoyon. He went to the trouble of getting you one,
No,
and you
but
wouldn't.
but you want to know something? You wouldn't do it if the king brought you something. You wouldn't do it. You just let it sit there and get cold. You're going to be occupied with something else when you're speaking to Reb Chaim. Just think about it. I will just tell you something, okay? I was sitting in Beis Medrash pondering this. So I asked the guy next to me, I said, what do you say? So he just rattled off the Gemara. I said, yeah, but what's the Gemara saying? What's going on? So like, how do you accept that? He said, I'm going to tell you a story. Said the Stipler came to visit Reb Chaim Kanevsky, and Reb Chaim Kanevsky was sick. He was a young man. He must have been like, 35 or 40, some X amount of years ago. And the Stipler told him he's on the way to the publisher because he's publishing one of his svarim. And Reb Chaim says, "Oh, really? I also have a sefer that I wanted to publish." So the Stipler said, "Would you like me to bring it? I'll bring. Maybe you want me to bring it with me?" So Reb Chaim said, "If you would like to," and he gave it to the Stipler, and the Stipler sefer came out, and no news about Reb Chaim sefer. So after a while, Reb Chaim asked his father. He said, "What happened to my sefer?" He said, "It's still in my house. I didn't get around to it." So he said, "You didn't get around to it. You offered, and I said, if you'd like, you could do it." So the Stipler said to him, "That's true, but you should have said, I don't want to be matriach my father." I don't know exactly how the Stipler was, but he was already writing svarim. Let's just put it that way. Okay, he was at least as big as Rav Zacharias. Okay, like we're talking about, So I asked the question again: What were these people that were eating and Moshe Rabbeinu serving? What's going on?
With the story with the Stipler, if one of my sons would come to me with a sefer he wanted me to bring to a publisher, I'd be having so much nachas on it, I'd be jumping to take it.
I want to tell you something that you are 100% right, and that's why we have failed our children. Because you are supposed to have restraint and teach them the right thing. The reason why you're taking it is because you're happy, but you missed out on an opportunity. Now, I just want to make something clear. Everything that I'm saying, I'm willing to underwrite. But all this has to do with the other aspect of how we raise our children. You can't do something, we always, we play catch with them, and you let them hide on your back, but I'm not taking your sefer to the publisher. You know what I mean? There's other, you have to have it all worked out. But Be'etzem, the reason why you're doing it, the Marami Rotenberg, we discussed this. He didn't meet his father because he didn't want his father to stand up or sit down. Who has to stand for us? So you don't do it. This Derech Eretz is for real. Derech Eretz is for real. Anyways, I just, 1 second.
To me, the big question was the Stipler could have said to his son, that I was going to say, the Stipler could have said to his son, "You think it's right for me to bring your sefer?" He could have taught him right then and there.
Yes, I want to tell you something. That's an excellent question, but I have an answer for that question. How will the lesson be taught better? Sometimes you need distance in order to make the impression. And if you just do it, I'm going to tell you something. Yes, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you about from the emotional upheavals that I have in my personal life. Okay? This is a confession over here. I give people rides and, whatever, and people get off along the road, wherever it is that I'm going. So let's say I'm going to Ava Shalom. So, and the person knows, he's in my car, he knows I'm going to Ava Shalom. And I turn in to Lachish on the Ayalon side, not the other side. And the person who knows I'm going to Ava Shalom says, "Would you please let me off by 35? 35 is the building next door." or he says, let me off by Motzamayim. What should I respond to the guy?
That you're a taxi service and that's where I'll drop you off.
Okay.
Because
Now,
you picked, because you were doing him the chesed, not for you. There was a chesed you were doing for him.
Okay. So now I want to qualify the question over here. If I was going, in other words, for me to stop off in Motzamayim, or for me to stop off on the corner of Ayalon and Sorey, it's the same amount of gas and brakes. It doesn't cost me anymore to stop off in front of Motzamayim. What is wrong with the guy asking me to stop off at Motzamayim? Arya, I can't hear you. I can't hear a word you're saying. Arya, you're not on. You're off. Arya, you have to turn your speaker on.
Unmute. Don't unmute.
Unmute.
Got it. Okay. The guy can't walk close to another shalom to Motzamayim.
Well, I don't understand, but why don't you do a favor?
Anez chutzpah.
1 second. Let's forget. It's not me. That's not Rabbi Zacharias. Let's say it's a regular guy. All right now, let's not. They're not talking about right now the rabbi aspect. They're talking about a regular guy.
If you have to go out of your way, you're going further or making a turn that you wouldn't make. So and he asks you to do it, okay, that would be chutzpah. But if it's going on the way and then you have to make a stop before that, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay, Arya, you don't agree with him, do you?
Even if you had to go out of your way a little bit, I would do it.
Even if I have to go make what?
Even if I had to go out of my way a little bit, I would do it. I bring pickpocket people and I take them up to Gimel. I take them to Gimel. If he needs to go to Gimel, I take him to Gimel.
Fine. Zev, you didn't understand the question. I'm not arguing with you. That's a different question. The question over here was that he asked me to make an extra stop one building away from where I'm stopping anyways.
That's ridiculous. It's absolutely
ridiculous. Is that what he did? Is that proper or improper?
No, it's not only improper, it's ridiculous.
It's not proper.
So you can't go.
It's not proper. Now, why is it not proper?
Because he knew where you were going. He knew you were going to the next building.
So why? But it's a chesed. So why is it? I agree with you. But why is it not proper? Let's speak it out, as they say.
Unnecessary.
What?
Absolutely unnecessary to ask for that.
So, what it is that the person is self-centered, and he only thinks about himself. And the purpose of me being there is obviously only to serve him. So the reason why he asks me, and if I would tell him something and say, what's the difference of you stopping for me here or the 6 guys that you stopped for elsewhere? That's what he would ask me, because he doesn't understand that he's self-centered. So I'm stuck with a problem. I'm filling you in on the turmoil in my life. Ali, why are you laughing about? Because I have problems, you laugh? That's not very good midos. Anyways, so what's my problem? If I say something, you know what he's going to think? I'm too lazy to stop for him, so I'm blowing off steam at him because I have bad midos.
Not right to say anything.
And if I don't say anything, then I am justifying a bad habit. To not say anything is also not right. How could I be a person who's doing something wrong and not give techacham?
So couldn't you have said, listen, I'm giving a share, or I'm going there for mincha or going for Ma'ariv or whatever. He says, would you mind telling him? I know. Would you mind?
So it's that he won't understand. What's the point? The point is think about others. When I excuse why I can't do it, I'm not getting him to think about others. He did something wrong. But if I'm going to give him techacha, all he's going to say is that it's something wrong with me. So I better Kishem shemitzvah lo yimar davar nishma, mitzvah lo yimar davar she'eino nishma. But
would he listen if he got?
hand, I am perpetuating a bad nida.
I would tell them, I'll give you a chance for schar halicho. Make it positive.
Yeah, no, but then I still didn't accomplish what I was supposed to do.
Well, you can't do anything with this guy.
Mr. Gross, what do you say?
I'm asking, would he have listened? If he's not going to listen, then it's not worth saying it. Then he shouldn't.
Yeah, but how do you know if he's going to listen or not? Unless he's a familiar guy.
It seems that the Rov knows already the character.
So I'll tell you, what can be done is at a later time, it could be brought up agavurcha and told it. Because
a general drasha in the shul.
No, general drasha he'd never hear. He wouldn't understand that we're talking about it. That if this guy would never make the connection. But at a different time, when it's not negaya to anything, you create a mashal, and then you say this, and you would say that this. I just wanted to point this point out to you. But if I would say anything at that time, I am only increasing his bad nida by giving to chacha. But this is like these are from my problems. Elias Kowitz, he's laughing. He has a better way to deal with the guy.
It was pouring outside. What do you want from the guy?
It was in Beit Shemesh. The sun was shining and it was very hot.
Right.
anyways, but that's just so here we have the situation. I just wanted to read to you a Rambam over here. 1 second. Let me look at base if I'm not mistaken. Here.
Rabbi, if I was you, I would say to you that I would say to the guy, stop outside the shul, which is number 33, and say, "Is this okay for you?" And then you've done nothing wrong. He's only got to walk a few yards.
That's right, but that's true. But I didn't teach him the lesson.
You've done nothing wrong. You've done the mitzvah. You've given him a lift to 5 yards from where he wants to go. You've done the mitzvah.
True, but I still did not teach him the lesson that has to be taught.
You have. You told him to walk 5 yards.
That wasn't the lesson. The lesson is think about others. And all I did was think about myself. He's going to go, hey, look at Rabbi Zachar. She doesn't even do a chesed. I'll just share with you, Alan, just to freak you out, okay? I have no better words to use than that. From my share of stories about giving people rides, I think the one that goes into the Hall of Fame, I don't know anybody who ever had such a thing happen to them. I picked up a guy and took him, he wasn't even looking for a ride, and I took him to almost exactly where he was supposed to go. And I says, okay, if I let you off over here. And he quoted to me, a Maimer Chazal, Arur Rishoyim Shetoivosam Einom Shleimo. Alan, I will translate that to you into English. Ellie, you're laughing again. I don't know what's so funny. Okay? He said, cursed are Rishoyim, that they do not do complete acts of chesed. What's so funny? This is a true story.
He's a Rosh Talmid Chacham, this guy. This guy's a Rosh.
There's nothing to do with that. It's an Amoritz or Talmid Chacham. Somebody does you a favor and that's what you say.
I'm making a joke.
That's not a joke. That's no joke.
It's not even a joke. That's called that he's not appreciative.
That's ultimate.
You a lesson.
What lesson did he teach me? Not to give a ride a second time. What lesson did he teach me?
Maybe to complete the action.
So I'm asking you the question. Okay, it says, Chef, this is a serious question. Is this the time, the place, and the way to do that?
You feel when you pick up the hitchhiker and drop him off at 33, you have to teach him a lesson. This gentleman seems to seem, he's also a teacher. He also has to teach people.
But the difference is, even if you were right, did I say anything to the person I gave a right to? No.
You're smarter than he is.
Okay. Thank you. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna read over here a Rambam just to make matters worse. Life isn't so terrible. The Rambam over here is talking about a melech. Moshe Rabbeinu had a din of a melech. V'chei mitzvah ala melech lechabed loim de Torah. Even a king has an obligation to be mechabed loim de Torah. Ukesheyichnesu lefonav Sanhedrin v'chachmei Yisrael. When the Sanhedrin and Chachmei Yisrael come into the melech, yamod lifneim, he should stand v'yeshiva mitzidoi, and he should escort them. He should give them a place of prominence to sit. He kissed the Talmid Chacham v'karei Rebbe Yamari. So here we have a beginning of a way. We have over here situations where even Moshe Rabbeinu, which is a king, that maybe he's allowed to or supposed to make himself subservient to the Talmidei Chachamim, maybe to his father-in-law. However, the Rambam qualifies this. When is this true? When the king is in his home, in his private suite. He can do this like this in private. But in front of other people, he's not allowed to do this. Why? Because he's the king. A king is supposed to have derech eretz, covet for Talmid Chacham. Melech shemochel al kevoidoi, and kevoidoi mochel. V'lo yamod b'pnei adam, v'lo yidaber rakois, and he should not speak pleasantly. He should speak, not buddy. V'lo yikra la'adam ela b'shmoi kidei shetiya yir'osoi b'leiv hakol. He has an obligation to instill fear in his subjects. So here Moshe Rabbeinu, which according to some was a melech, maybe he wasn't a melech, and the question's not so severe. What's the answer to this question? This is the question. This is not really what I wanted to speak about. I guess we got a little bit carried away. Oh, here. This is the question. I'm going to answer the question in part. First, I'm going to say over a story that happened with the Beis Halevi, which is quite a humorous story. And then we will discuss the raya that the Gemara has. The Beis Halevi had a guest that came in the middle of the night. Beis Halevi was the only house that the lights were still on. And he needed a place to stay. And the Beis Halevi answered the door. And the Beis Halevi himself was making the man's bed. And the man was beside himself. He was by my Thursday night shir, and here he hears that the Beis Halevi he sees the Beis Halevi making his bed. He doesn't want that to happen. So he says, Beis Halevi, don't be matriach. I'll do it myself. The Beis Halevi said, it's fine. This was on a Wednesday night or a Sunday night. The next morning in shul, before Kriyas HaTorah, the Beis Halevi goes over to the Gabbai. And he tells him something which is very strange. Basically, they go to speak to the Gabbai in the middle of davening. And normally they would give a guest, they give him shlishi. The Kitzur, the Gabbai doesn't give him shlishi, the Gabbai gives him hagba. The man gets close to the Sefer Torah, is about to pick it up, and the Beis Halevi runs over to him and says, don't be matriach. What was the lesson the Beis Halevi was saying? You are my mitzvah, you came my way. This is not a personal issue. This is just like you don't say, don't be matriach to pick up the Sefer Torah. You're the mitzvah that came away. By doing this is how one is honoring the Torah. when that became your mitzvah. That's a totally different situation. When Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law comes, does he have somewhere else to go? It's not proper at that time to say possibly that it's not Kavod HaTorah. Ein Breira. Even though, now I'm going to just make this a little bit more complicated, even though that when it comes to certain mitzvahs bein adam u'chavero, there's a halacha of Sokei Ve'ena Lefi Choidoi. That depends on what the situation is and which mitzvahs you're talking about. But this is, I think, an idea. I guess we're more or less out of time before I start another subject over here. This is an idea which is very important. To put yourself into a situation that somebody's going to have to serve you is one thing. When the situation was forced, that's the way the turn of events happened, that's something totally different. So that's possibly when Moshe Rabbeinu's shver came, he should say, we'll get somebody else to serve him. Now I just would like to, I'll just comment. The Gemara says that Rabbi Gamliel, when this happened to Rabbi Gamliel, they said, it's okay, we could have Rabbi Gamliel serve us. Why? Because Avraham Avinu did that. Avraham Avinu was great. Moshe Rabbeinu did that. And then where it says that not only that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was greater than everybody, and he's on a Mefarnes everybody. That's the end of the Gemara. Now this Gemara bothered me to no end. That's not fair. Well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no choice. He created us. He gave us this dependency on food that we need to do things. And if he's not going to give it to us, it's not going to happen. So he built it into the system. So I like to say, with my approach, this question is answered. Because when it happens that way, that's the way the system is set up, there is no choice, then there's nothing wrong. But when there is a choice, that's when a person has to think about it. I'll just end off with the following statement, and I would like to make you all uncomfortable. Okay? It's something to think about. One of the Gedolei Hador that was nifter already 50, 60 years ago, long ago, was walking someplace. I was going someplace, and he wanted to put on his coat. And somebody over there grabbed his coat and said, let me help the Rav. I'll put on a coat. So the Rav said, it's not necessary. I could do it myself. So the man said, it's a covet for me to help the Rav. So the Rav said, who said I want to be mechabed you? This is not a joke. There's an interaction that happens, and it forms a obligation. You have somebody help you, he did something for you, you're indebted to him. So to accept a favor, to be mechabed somebody, there's also a piece of Torah that has to be learned exactly what and how it should be done. All right, we should all have a good Shabbos. I'm sorry I didn't get to this week's piece. All right.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Before you go, can I say that Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law for Kibbud of Aim. They showed him the respect that he would have showed on his parents. So that's the reason maybe why he went out there.
I agree. So this, he was forced, so to speak, to do this. That's because the situation warrants it. This wasn't an elective.
You help me.
Yeah.
If you help me put my
Yeah. Okay, I'm on your side, Alan.
I would thank you. I wouldn't question it.
You would thank. You didn't say a whole statement. You would thank what?
I would thank you for helping me put my coat on. I wouldn't question you. I don't think it's right to question you. I don't think.
Okay, so I want to tell you something, Zev. I want to tell you something. You are 100% right from your perspective. But that's the perspective that you take in many things. It's not my job to teach that person. Correct?
Right, I agree.
Yeah, but when you are the person's Rebbe, it is your job. And if you're not going to teach them, then you will have your complacency, you will be debited with that. No, it's that Rosh Hashiva of mine, when he said to me this idea, it made a very strong impression on me. And I won't ask somebody of stature to do me a favor.
That's how one individual feels. That's how he
What?
felt. That's how he felt. He wanted to say it's not necessary to help me. In other words, he felt maybe too embarrassing him. But I think
Yes. So you have to know that. Yeah, okay, I accept. You have to know exactly the situation that was going on over here. There are many people. Who I'm just using. I wasn't there when this happened, but I understand this. There are many times that the person, I'm gonna. Zev, what would you say about the following story? This happened. I was in somebody's house in America, a very rich man's house, and there was a portrait picture of Rav Moshe Feinstein, probably 2 feet by 4 feet in the man's landing, when you come into the house, a massive picture. And in the corner of the picture was another picture of Rav Moshe, this picture itself, and it had Rav Moshe Feinstein signing the picture, just like a baseball player. And yet, what are you laughing about? Ellie, you're laughing way too much. Okay. There was this big picture, and on one side, it was Rav Moshe's signature, and on the other side was a picture of Rav Moshe signing the picture. What happened? Rav Moshe Feinstein came to this man's house, and his kid said, maybe you'll sign the picture for me. And Rav Moshe signed the picture. Now, what do you say? Zev?
A little less judging is in order.
No, that's a very typical Rav Moshe.
Rav Moshe onav ma'oil al pnei kol adam al pnei adam.
There's not a need to say anything.
Why is it not a need to say anything? Would they think what the kid did was right? But you know what? Not only, it's not the kid's fault. Because the kid was brought up in a house that his father could advertise this.
Oh boy.
Bishlam, the kid's a kid. What's the father thinking? Die of embarrassment.
Maybe for you, each moment is a teaching moment.
1 second. Zev, would you put that picture up?
Pardon? Would I? No, I don't think so.
All right. Anyways, that's just a fascinating story. Okay, you should all have a good Shabbos.